Part of the Night Stalker story is that Richard Ramirez was almost caught when he ran a stop sign and was pulled over by an LAPD traffic cop on June 15, 1985. The official narrative tells us that Ramirez overheard a radio transmission about his attempt to abduct a child on Garvanza Avenue. He knew the cop might put two and two together, so he ran away. The following is how it was depicted on a 1989 TV movie.
Units, an attempted kidnapping just occurred at York and North Broadway by a male, dark, driving a late model red Toyota. The suspect was last seen driving westbound from York from Broadway.
Detective Gil Carrillo found out about the two crimes by reading police teletypes. He believed the killer was also abducting children, so pursued this lead. After speaking to that traffic cop, it was revealed that the driver drew a pentagram on the hood before escaping. The most recent murder, before June 15th, involved pentagrams at the crime scene. This alarmed detectives. The sheriff's department asked the LAPD to hold the stolen car for prints. But the car was left out in a sunny lot, and the prints melted away. However, a dental appointment card was discovered under the name Richard Mena. Sheriff's detectives located the dentist and obtained Ramirez's dental records. The dentist described Richard Mena as a tall Hispanic man who spoke good English. This was around July 9th. Between then and the traffic stop, there had been 3 more murders, 1 attempted murder, and a sex attack. Probably because of the pentagram, detectives latched onto Richard Mena. This is proven in the way the newspapers began to report that the murderer was around 6 feet tall with curly hair. The problem with this is that none of the victims before June 15th had described this person. Let's examine the known cases up to that point. Maria Hernandez described a man with brown eyes and facial hair who was between 5 feet 9 and 6 feet 1. Police sketch artist Marlon Coleman created these drawings of a suspect. Although Maria originally gave a height range of 5 feet 9 to 6 feet 1, at trial she settled on an average 5 feet 10.
She says, sure.
I can tell you he was 5'10", something like that.
Ramirez was 6 feet 1, or in his own words, 6 feet 2 on a good day. The perpetrator in the earlier abductions looked nothing like Ramirez, but that is not what Carrillo claims.
The first description I got was from Maria Hernandez. When you look at the reports that the children gave, their descriptions were very similar. They described him as being tall, thin, light-skinned Hispanic or Caucasian, disheveled hair, all-black clothing, members-only type jacket, brown stained-gap teeth, and a pungent odor.
Here is a police sketch from the child abduction cases in color. The Tsai Yenyu case was not publicly connected to the serial killer until August. None of the 2 witnesses said the suspect resembled Richard Mena. They both estimated that the killer stood between 5 feet 6 and 5 feet 8. He was possibly Asian. Yu herself was Taiwanese, and it is possible that her killer was too. William Doi was murdered on May 14th. His wife Lily survived and gave a different description to the one police released to the papers in July. This news article from the preliminary hearing revealed that Lily said the killer had short, light brown hair. He seemed older than Ramirez and was 5 feet 10. This was a composite sketch that Lily helped police to create. Lily had difficulty speaking because she had a stroke, so her daughter Linda helped her communicate with police. This September 1985 Orange County Register article revealed that Lily didn't think Richard Ramirez was her husband's killer. It was conveniently blamed on her poor eyesight. Lily's speech difficulties meant that the judge would not allow the defense to cross-examine her over the suspect's lack of resemblance to Ramirez. But now we know her description makes her the 3rd witness, whose identification did not match the runaway driver Richard Mena. This video will skip over the Carol Kyle case because that was added to the Night Stalker saga in August. It's not relevant to the timeline. Moving on to the next survivor, we have Sophie Dickman. like Richard Mena. Sophie's attacker had curly hair, but he was 5 feet 8 or 9. This is far too short. This was Sophie's composite drawing. Joyce Nelson was beaten and strangled just a mile from Sophie Dickman on the same night. Monterey Park Police held a meeting to discuss the attacks in the San Gabriel Valley area. Sophie Dickman's composite was handed out to attendees.
I made some calls to local people that I knew in the media, in both the papers and television, and told them that I was going to have a town hall meeting. And about 4 days after the killing, I held a meeting. Perhaps 500 or 600 citizens showed up, and we got good press coverage on it.
They would stay inside their home and monitor the block that they live on, and pass us any information that might be pertinent to our identification and location of the suspect.
Days after the attacks, the newspapers reported that the suspect in the Dickman sex attack was the same man who killed Joyce. The press was ramping up a serial killer narrative by listing the murders of William Doy, Mary Cannon, Patty Higgins, and the attacks on Mabel Bell, Florence Lang, and Whitney Bennett. There were different methods, weapons, and types of victim. Aside from some shoe prints at the crime scenes, it was all based on theories that did not fit known criminal history. The March murders of Dale Okazaki, Tsai Lianyu, and Maxine and Vincent Zazera had not yet been publicly connected. Sheriff detectives had linked them behind the scenes. While sheriff's detectives and the media were finally embracing Carrillo's one perpetrator theory, Monterey Park Police acknowledged that the killer had a wide variety of looks.
When we looked at the different composites that were being drawn and were being produced by different victims, we noticed that there were different information where there was no one or two that were exactly the same. This guy could have been a Caucasian, could have been a Hispanic, could have been 5'8", could be 6'2". Nobody knew for sure.
Because the police had already fixated on Richard Mena as the suspect, it meant that the statements of Sophie Dickman, Lily Doy, Maria Hernandez, Jorge Gallegos, and Joseph Duenas were forgotten until the trial. They had Mena's dental records, but the sheriff's detectives did not catch him at his next appointment.
So we got 2 of our officers and stuck them in the dental office waiting for Richard to come back in. He's got an impacted tooth and it's going to be killing him pretty soon. And we know if he come back, they're going to get him. And since the dental office was a jurisdiction of LAPD, we get Los Angeles Police Department to put one of their robbery alarms inside the dental office. So they put that in there and we pulled our guys off. The very first day that we pulled our guys out and put the alarm in, the doctor called me up about 10 o'clock that night and says, "Where were you? Why didn't you come?" Richard had been in there that day. The doctor kept hitting the alarm and the alarm malfunctioned or wasn't wired properly. It didn't go off.
Next came what author Emily Zola calls the most pivotal moment in the case. Finally, the suspect in the next Night Stalker attack allegedly looked just like the phantom the detectives were chasing. This suspect apparently had bad teeth that resembled Mena's. Somkid Covenant's original police statements have never been made public. We have no way of knowing if she really mentioned his teeth. As I demonstrated in another video, none of the previous witness statements say the suspect had rotten, gappy teeth. The Covenant incident contained all aspects of other cases rolled into one, including an attack on the Covenant's child. The nonsensical theories and indistinct suspects conveniently clicked into place. You could say it worked out better than any fiction, against all odds. But what about subsequent victims? We do know that a later victim, Sakina Abuoff, was directly asked about the suspect's teeth. We know she originally said she could not recall gaps after being asked a leading question. She later changed her story and said his teeth were crooked and stained. Her suspect was also blonde. It truly seems as if Ramirez was selected to be the Night Stalker, months before any evidence was gathered. Subsequent descriptions never superseded the image of the man with rotten teeth and curly hair. The next victims gradually changed their stories to fit him, especially after seeing him on TV. The release of his mugshot led his friends to report him to the police, all because of this chance encounter with an LAPD traffic cop.